All right, welcome in KSO Show. Mason Voth, Drew Galloway here on a Tuesday. Should have been a Monday, but for some reason my internet was a mess yesterday. I tried publishing one of the stories that was supposed to go out on KSO, and I hit the button that says publish, and I thought like something had gone wrong. It took over 5 minutes for just one simple story to get put out. So I was like, this isn't going to be great. So we delayed to today. We go this morning, and we've got some probably more fun things to talk about than obviously basketball's been a little disappointing lately, although they are coming off of a win, and then no football for still a while. But we will talk about both of those today in a couple of different ways. We've got K-State basketball. They hosted a couple of recruits over the weekend. Drew yesterday published an update with one of the official visitors, so you can kind of get the full download there, but we'll talk a little bit about it with Xavier Wilson, who was one of the visitors this past weekend, and what that kind of looks like for K-State. And then also we did it last year. I think it's good to go back and look and kind of recap what happened at the Combine for the Cats that were there this season, because everybody likes that. It's fun to be able to see K-State on that stage and to have multiple guys there. That's one of those encouraging things in this current climate era is that they've gotten back to, it's not just you're waiting for one guy to go and do something. It's you've got multiple guys there, and not only are you just getting dudes there, they're performing pretty well and turning a lot of heads. So that's those are the two main things we'll get into today. We'll start just by mentioning the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. You've missed your opportunity if you wanted your single game tickets. So you probably, I think you can maybe buy them through the stadium in Ireland, but they're open to the Irish public now. You can go in and buy them. So I don't think that you're going to be able to do it that route, but check out cats2ireland.com. They would probably be able to accommodate you still. And we get closer and closer to that game. And I really only bring this up so we can get Drew's Ireland fun fact as we keep counting down the days until this game.
The national animal of Ireland is the Irish hare. And it's the national animal because I knew that you'd ask. So we're locked and loaded. The Irish hare has been a native of Ireland and has been there for millions of years. It's the only animal that is related to hares, rabbits, and that kind of animal to Ireland. And it's been a symbol of Ireland's culture and wildlife. And it's been a symbol of Ireland for centuries.
All right.
Awesome. It's also a symbol of fertility and prosperity. So there's also that.
I feel like they say that about everything. It's like if it's a symbol, it means good things are happening. You know, there are or the total opposite. There are some really bad
symbols or the opposite.
Yeah. Does it say anything about the skunk population in Ireland? Do you know anything about that? Because we are currently dealing with a skunk at my house.
I mean, I can bring that to the table and put that on Thursday or Wednesday or whenever we're gonna go live.
Just look up Irish skunks because we have a skunk problem right now. We had never dealt with it in the first close to 4 years that we had lived in this house. I guess not quite 4 years. I guess it would have been the first 3 years. And then all of a sudden last year, midsummer, we started noticing a skunk was showing up on our Ring camera at night. That's in our backyard. And that's not fun. That's not great because I don't like, if my dog wants to go outside at 2 a.m., I don't want to have to go into the backyard. We got a fence for a reason. I'll just let her go do her thing. But the skunk, that throws a little wrench into the problem. So we were trying to figure out what to do and how to correct this problem. So we hired an exterminator. Now, for anybody watching or listening to this, or maybe Drew, did you ever see the show Billy the Exterminator? I think it was on A&E.
No, but all I see is flashbacks to Over the Hedge happening.
Okay. Yeah, it really wasn't as good as that. So let me let me find you a picture of Billy actually, I was going to find one of Billy. I'm going to get you the whole family so you kind of get an idea of what Billy the Exterminator looked like. So, okay, I'm going to have to save it in a different format real quick, but I will have a picture of Billy in a second to show, because that is what we got when we were calling around trying to find people that could maybe come in and take care of this skunk problem for us. And first off, I normally, and I get some people are like, oh, no, you want to go like the local route, you want to save money. I would prefer to just go with someone that like they have like a legit website and it looks like it's official. And I know that, yeah, I might spend a little bit more, but, it would be nice to go ahead and like, somebody that I can trust, like with my money and everything. Well, those people, very rarely, there's not many of them that actually do anything with skunks. Like they just want it. And like Terminix, one of the big national companies, they had it on their website that they took care of skunks. I called them and they were like, no, we don't do skunks. I was like, okay, well, that's not helpful at all. So we found one that we were in a Menards parking lot. And my wife and I were scrambling, trying to figure out what we needed to do, how we needed to figure this out. So we call somebody. She shows up. It's a whole family of exterminators, basically, like family affair. She shows up. She's got the kids in tow, and they're like doing things. And to their credit, like they did seem like they knew what they were doing. But I was still a little uneasy about it because I'm like, I don't want to get scammed out of it because it's a lot of money. These people are trying to deal with skunks. Like I don't want to deal with a skunk, and they're volunteering to do it for, a cost. And so I go out and I ask her, I was like, how do you want to be paid? Do you want to do you have like a card or like check or whatever? She wanted cash. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm putting a lot of faith in you to get this sucker done. And I see the comment from Colton that says trap it. There's probably many, not just one. I'm going to get to that portion of this story. So, yes, I give her a lot of money to try. It's not like an insane amount, but it's a lot. It's probably what this situation costs and calls for. And they come out, they do it. And so keep in mind, only wants cash. I'm sure that was just because, they want physical tender. It has nothing to do with probably tax purposes. I'm sure it was an honest situation. And it was a hardcore look that they were presenting. Like they're, I'm not judging. I'm not a prude or anything. Well, I kind of am, but whatever. Like there was a serious tattoo and piercing situation going on there. And for reference, this is what Billy the Exterminator and his family looked like. They had a reality show on A&E. They were exterminators. They went and did stuff, but that's a pretty hardcore look for a bunch of exterminators. They look more like the team in dodgeball that Average Joe's gets their uniforms mixed up with at the very first game.
That great call out.
So yeah, it was a very Billy the Exterminator situation that showed up. So they set a couple of traps, and after a few days, and she did a good job of communicating with tech. So I didn't really worry too much about getting screwed or whatever. But I was still like, if we catch them, I need somebody to be here to like come pick this thing up. I'm not dealing with it. So we caught something in one of the traps. It was a possum. It was like, great. That's awesome.
You really do have an over the hedge situation on over there.
Yeah. But we're not in this thing for possums. Like, yeah, are possums great to have in your yard? No. Like I do not want possums either. But if you said possum or skunk, I would have said, give me the possum 100 times out of 100. Because, possums play possum. Like at some point they may not do anything. They may just get scared of you and whatever. I'm less worried about a possum, although still worried, less worried about a possum than a skunk. So they come out, they take care of that one. They reset that trap. There's still two traps. And after a couple of weeks, the other trap has gone off. I'm like, okay, it has to be the skunk now. It has to be the skunk. And I can tell that there's something in one of the cages, but like, I'm not going to get too close to try and figure out what it is. And so I'm kind of looking in there. I'm like, I don't think this looks like the possum the last time, but I don't know. It may have been the day of the first or like the first or second home football game this year that they came out to do it, to get it. And it's another possum. So we caught no skunks during that month-long process where I spent hundreds of dollars of trying to get rid of them. And they keep coming back. And my theory on this is there's a brand new development being built across the street from my neighborhood. So like there's hillside, and then on the other, and we're on one side of it. And then on the other side, there is a bunch of new houses being built. It used to be just a massive wooded area, but within the last year and a half, there's been trees getting torn down, which I'm going to turn into a tree hugger. I'm going to start the local deforestation as bat movement if I keep getting critters in my yard. But my theory is they've chopped all these trees down, they've torched these habitats, and now you've got these animals scrambling and they're trying to find wherever they can go. So because I don't like the quality of which some things were done when my house was built, which is we were not the ones that were the first occupants of the home, but they're like the fence has some holes in it. So what I've started doing is just like holes at the bottom, like the ground is not high enough and the fence is not low enough. I have started to take like cement blocks and try to block every hole that I see, and hopefully that stops. I went and did a lap with my dog this morning in the yard. She's very helpful at finding holes in the fence. And so I was like, oh, there's a hole. Boom. Another cement block down right there. So we're going to see, but it keeps showing up on the Ring camera, and it's not great. At least it's leaving the yard. Like I've never actually seen it with my own eyes. It's just religiously like 2-3 a.m. Boom. There's the skunk on the Ring in the backyard, trying to go back there. And it's just a dumb problem to have. And it's another one of those that makes me go, I kind of hate living in my house. I kind of hate it. I really, it costs money, but then, stupid HOA, stupid skunks, all this dumb stuff. But that was my skunk story. And shout out to Billy the Exterminator and his crew. So hardcore. I can't remember what the brother's name was, but I think it had to have been pretty funny. I would tell anybody that hasn't seen Billy the Exterminator that you should go and watch it. They were based in Louisiana, and just some hilarious stuff. The first place that they showed up, and how they got their show was because Billy the Exterminator had been on a couple of episodes of Dirty Jobs. So that's how they got discovered. And let's see if I can find okay. So Billy's the main guy. He's the one that you can see with with the sunglasses. He's the one with the sunglasses and the spiked up hair. Obviously, the woman to his left, that is his mom. And then his dad over there, which, the dad's swag that you can tell based on how the dad dresses, why the kids ended up the way they did. And then the brother's name was Ricky. So you got Billy and Ricky, and then let's see, Big Bill. They call their dad Big Bill. And then the mom of Billy and Ricky, her name was Donnie. And then Billy's wife was also featured at times. So there you go. They also had a couple of people that always would show up, like you think of Pawn Stars when they're like, oh, we've got a specialist for this or something. Billy the Exterminator, he had some specialists, including a guy named Gator Dave that would show up and take care of a lot of the business. Billy the Exterminator ran for 7 seasons. 6 in its original run on A&E, and then 7 on country music television in Canada. Not the American CMT, but yeah. So go check it out. That's a good way to waste some time. And you'd have to be in the similar mindset to like, I don't know anybody that watched it as a serious show, but you have to kind of be like, you have to just watch it for the comedy aspect, even though these people aren't trying to be funny most of the time. It'd be the type of show that my dad and brothers and we would really like. My mom would be like, "This is so stupid. Why do you even watch this?" And now it's one of those shows that I would still laugh at and find funny. And my wife would be like, "This is so stupid. Why would you watch this?" Just like, Dog the Bounty Hunter. Loved Dog the Bounty Hunter growing up. That's like a classic show. My wife surprisingly knew nothing about it. And I tried saying I wanted to dress our dog up as Dog the Bounty Hunter one year for Halloween.
Ooh, that's
So
funny.
she could be a dog that's the bounty hunter. And, she's got a little like light hair. So like her ears would look like dogs' locks or whatever. She's like, I don't know who that is. I was like, you grew up in rural Kansas and you don't know who Dog the Bounty Hunter is? Like you were the target demo for A&E to get people to watch Dog the Bounty Hunter. All right, let's get into stuff people actually care about, not my skunk problem or hardcore people that hunt things on A&E, whether it be dog hunting humans or Billy hunting animals. We'll start on the basketball front, Drew, because you got to talk to Xavier Wilson, who visited this past weekend. He was also there with Ashton McGee, who was visiting. And we know that for Wilson, he has a commitment date set now of Thursday at 2 p.m. You piece it together, it feels like that would probably be a good sign for K-State to at least get on the board with a high school commit.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. McGee, we don't know a ton yet, but Wilson has that commitment date of Thursday at 2:00. He also has visited West Virginia, but it was an unofficial visit and also was in January. Like, if you really piece together what this is looking like, K-State actually had Wilson at the Arizona game that kind of went a little bit under the radar, and then offered after watching him play 2 times in the last, I think, 3 weeks, and then get the official visit scheduled. Right after the official visit, you hear that he has a commitment date of Thursday at 2:00. It's looking extremely likely that it's going to be K-State, and I think it's a big deal because they don't have a high school commitment right now, as we have well documented. And I think that we're gonna go way back in the time machine, which feels a long time ago, when there's just been so much change in college basketball and college athletics. But one of Jerome Tang's first press conferences, I think it might have been his first signing day after they got Day-Day Ames and RJ Jones and Michaela Bridge, that I'm like 95% sure Jerome Tang talked about always wanting to get a point guard in every class and have that kind of be like their version of how a quarterback is always taken. Well, last year they kind of did, but David Castillo isn't really a point guard. Wilson is a little bit more like a point guard, but it's still probably more of a combo guard. So you're still at least getting a guy that you think can handle the ball. Remember, Baylor's national title team didn't necessarily have a point guard on it. They just had 3 elite combo guards that could really fill it up. So I think that when you look at the positional need, I think it's always better to take a younger guard, especially if you want kind of like immediate results. Because I think that you look at the freshman big men don't play a ton because that's really a developmental position. Freshman wings play a lot. Freshman guards play a lot. So I think that getting a freshman guard to come in is a big deal. And it's always fun when you can get somebody that's semi-local. You have a big connection with Mocan. And then I would even argue, and this is probably a hotter take in the recruiting world because of where his teammate sits, but Xavier Wilson is at least as good as Aaron Rowe, if not better.
So I think this is one that I've seen a number of people that are coming around and they're like, this is good, especially for the situation K-State's in. Like, because I don't want to spin this in the way that like this is some, great job by K-State here. I think this is a good addition, and I think I've seen a lot of people that like Xavier Wilson as a player and what he could develop into, and it's probably one of those where you look at this is the kind of thing that it would have been nice for K-State to like wrap this up way
Yeah.
back and then focus your time somewhere else. Or like, yeah, I just because right now it's setting up to where this might be the only thing they do, and that's not overly encouraging.
I was gonna say, even if you got a signee in the fall and you still had a spot for a high schooler, having Xavier Wilson being kind of like that lottery ticket one,
Yeah.
I think would make people a lot more excited. But I think that there is something to Xavier Wilson and how he has played his senior year, because I think that he truly kind of is that late bloomer, because he didn't really play a ton for MoCan this summer, because I don't know if anybody knows this, but like MoCan Elite is absolutely stacked now and has 4-star prospect after 4-star prospect. So Wilson didn't really play a ton and was a little bit buried, but has had a really nice senior season, to the point where like West Virginia, like I said, he took a visit there because West Virginia offered him during his senior year as well. So if this was a recruitment that like West Virginia is doing, and Missouri was showing interest but hasn't offered, and I don't think that they will in time, that you already had guys coming in, and now he is kind of like the cherry on top of everything. Everybody's probably a little bit more excited and feeling good about what's going on, but when it is this late, I mean, I framed it as like this is a guy that you have to get because it's this late in the game, and
Yeah.
you offered, and you're showing this much interest, and you're having him come to 2 games. Like, this is a guy that you have to get.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is good for K-State. And I would have hope that they can develop Xavier Wilson into something, but like the big picture aspect of it for K-State, they got to be better than this moving forward. And this was not, to me, and this stuff will be judged 3-4 years from now more than right now. But like, this was not, even you can like Xavier Wilson, you can like what's coming. This was not a successful recruiting class for them. Like it was a failure once again in terms of how they had to do things and how they're setting themselves up, because they are missing the opportunity to get, multiple guys that are in a certain prospect type range. But again, I don't want people thinking that's me saying I don't think Xavier Wilson's good. I think there's some good upside there. I think a lot of people watch it and have the same sentiment as you, that he's probably undervalued. This can turn into a really good thing for K-State. And if they're able to land him, which you kind of absolutely have to at this point in time, that's a good thing. So you have to start somewhere in terms of, I think, recognizing your faults and your wrongs. And the staff is doing that right now by hopefully adding Xavier Wilson when he commits on Thursday. I mean, would you be shocked right now if it wasn't K-State, just based off how the timeline's playing out?
Yeah, by the timeline playing out and what he has said, it's actually a pretty good update on KSO right now. But based on what he has said, I would be pretty shocked if it wasn't K-State. Which kind of leads me into Ashton McGee, as a lot less is known. I mean, just transparently, I have messaged him back and forth even before the official visit, and had gotten responses from him. Post visit, haven't gotten a response. That doesn't necessarily mean one thing one way or the other. I've had instances where I haven't been able to get a hold of somebody after an official visit, and they'd commit that day. And I've also had official visits where I haven't been able to get a hold of somebody, and then they just end up going somewhere else. So transparently, it could mean something. It could also mean nothing. But it just means that I haven't been able to get a hold of him, which means that DY or you are going to have to get a hold of him.
Yeah. So is it one or the other type of situation here, you think, for these guys? Like, is there no way for them to coexist? Because I think that'd be the question that people would have.
I think that there's a world where they could coexist. It just makes next year's roster a little bit more crowded in terms of how many portal spots that you get. So it could be just that they take one, but I would like to have 2 high school prospects in a class, but that's just my personal opinion. So you look at this for next year, and it does get a little bit more crowded if you take both. So I could see a scenario where it was only one, but again, I would like to, because it doesn't feel like you're putting all your eggs in just one basket in a recruiting class like they have with David Castillo.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so that is where basketball recruiting sits right now. Let's move on to the football stuff real quick before we finish up. 3 cats went to the combine: DJ Giddens, Jacob Parrish, Marquise Siegel, and I saw video evidence of Stone Hands catching balls. So that was already a win for him. No, I'm kind of joking there. Again, Marquise Siegel. I was on the Marquise Siegel wagon before anybody else. So
That is true.
that's why I earned the right to playfully downplay him at times. And also, I had the stones to call him Stone Hands to his face at Big 12 Media Days. So,
And he didn't punch you.
yeah, exactly. I think we bonded over that moment. So, 3 guys show up. They perform well. Safe to say Jacob Parrish was the most impressive, though, in terms of I think he showed up with probably the highest stock already out of these 3 guys, but it seems like all 3 guys showed up and definitely didn't hurt themselves, probably improved it. And Parrish is a guy that probably improved from where he already was, even greater than the other 2.
Yeah, Jacob Parrish on the draft board like consensus rankings was in that like 3rd to 4th round range going into the combine, and he absolutely lit it up. I mean, we knew that he would. I even put that in the factor fiction. Like I knew that he was going to test well. It was going to be, what do teams really think about his measurements? He comes in at 5'9" and 7/8, because that's how the NFL does their measurements. So closer to 5'10" than not, which is a good thing for him. And really long arms. I think he has a 6'3" wingspan. So as a Chiefs fan, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, that is exactly, but longer, the exact same measurements and weight as like Trent McDuffie. So that is exciting. And it's something that I think really has him going for him. It is how he measured. We knew that he'd light up testing, but 4.35 was even a little bit faster than I thought. I thought he'd be closer to like 4.38, 4.39, and he comes out and runs a 4.35. The fastest NFL combine 40 time by a K-State cornerback. And then this is how you really know that he has had really good feedback in the pre-draft process and knew that he just needed to run and prove that he was fast. By the way, there are analysts out there that don't do their homework and didn't think that Jacob Parrish was very fast. A Google search would help you. He ran a 10.47 in high school in the 100. He's fast.
Yeah, that was a fun thing to see with some of the takes and the thoughts on different guys, and then being like, I think you would have been able to kind of piece this together beforehand, but now you know, and now you've been proven completely wrong. So
yeah, it just goes to show that NFL guys have their heads so buried in the NFL that they like rarely watch college tape. Like I was talking with some people about like Dan Orlovsky saying how bad Colorado's offensive line was. Like, brother, did you not watch a single Colorado game
over the
year?
last 2 years? Over the last 2 years.
It's
we've known a lot of this stuff. Yeah, the college guys and the NFL guys, there's this big disconnect, and I just think to myself, like, you probably have a serious issue if you prefer to be an NFL person over a college person. I get, like, if you're Dan Orlovsky or whatever, like, there's more money in it. But like, as from like a fan perspective, why? And even if you are like one of the main NFL guys, why would you care more about the NFL? Like, I just think it's I don't know. It's crazy to me that people are like that. Same thing with the NBA college basketball thing. Like, I'm not saying you can't watch the NBA, but you're a fool if you think the NBA is more entertaining than college basketball.
Well, what's funny about like the NFL, it's not like this in the NBA because there's so many international players, but like the NFL, like the players have to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like some guys are just so buried in the NFL that they don't know. And even like it's even worse when I read Mel Kiper's like risers from the NFL Combine, and I sent this to you and DY. I was like, what the hell is he talking about? Because he has Jacob Parrish as one of his risers, which is a good thing. But in his article or in his like little snippet, he talks about how Jacob Parrish played the slot corner at K-State and is going to need to do that in the NFL. Jacob Parrish never once played the slot corner at K-State. So, so Mel Kiper just hasn't been watching Jacob Parrish, but saw how he ran and saw how he tested and decided to just put him in as stock risers. But yeah, he's gotten really good feedback because he didn't even work out after he ran. So I think that's a good thing. Raise your hand on here if you thought that DJ Giddens was going to run a 4.4 and closer to a 4.3.
Not this guy. Not a lot of people thought that was going to happen. And I think some of the stuff that we saw from DJ Giddens at the combine and then people trying to make sense of it, or, that CHGO guy saying that, some people thought that you were used wrong at K-State or whatever. I think what we see is obviously confirmation of what many could have assumed, is that at a certain point in the season, DJ Giddens was just banged up to the point where he couldn't be as effective as he was. And then also, like, he ran a great 40-yard dash. It's not a 60-yard dash. Like, how many runs where DJ did get caught are you looking at it and going, well, it's because he already outran that 40-yard mark? Like, he had a lot of runs that went beyond that number that didn't result in touchdowns, surprisingly. So that's where I throw that out. But, like, yeah, the guy talking about, oh, you didn't, wasn't used properly, didn't get as many touches as you could have. Well, DJ Giddens kind of peaked with his touches in that Colorado game for K-State. And that was even a game where he left and missed time throughout. There was like a series or a stretch there where he couldn't be in there. But if you look at that game for DJ Giddens, he ended up getting 27 touches in that game. And then from that point forward, the rest of the year, he got 20 at West Virginia, 19 against KU, 22 against Houston, 15 against Arizona State, 18 against Cincinnati, and 14 against Iowa State. So, like, there was clearly something going on there. Like, they rode him against Oklahoma State and Colorado this year, and just, you couldn't keep forcing that load onto him.
Well, I will bring it again forward and say NFL people are so stupid sometimes that if DJ had 20 or more touches in more of the games than they had, they'd say that he was being overworked.
True.
So sometimes you just can't win, and that Chicago guy just doesn't know ball if he doesn't think that DJ was used properly. If DJ stays another year, he's the number 2 all-time leading rusher. How he was used, you also have to know the context. As a redshirt freshman, the guy that's number 2 all time at K-State in rushing guards was on the team. As a sophomore, it was a split backfield for a little bit, and then DJ really took off and left Trayshawn Ward in the dust. And then as a redshirt junior, Dylan Edwards was also in the backfield. So, like, it was more of an NFL kind of how they rotate running backs than not. But you look at DJ's combine, and it's very possible that he goes on day 2 now. What I said after the combine and what worries me about him potentially going day 2 is this running back class is nuts. It's probably the best going into the draft in a really, really long time. So the question then becomes, when does the run on running backs start?
Mm-hmm.
And that will really determine when DJ goes, because as we know, it only takes one team to really love you to pick you.
Yeah.
But when you're at that position, especially, that a lot of teams don't want that second contract for a running back, it's going to come down to when the run on running back starts.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to kind of get to see how it plays out. But the good news is none of these guys really hurt themselves with their standing. They really only improved it with how they showed up and did. So,
Oh, I was
go
going to give
ahead.
you another chance for redemption. Did you think that Marquis Siegel would run sub 4.4?
No, I probably would not have assumed that, but I wouldn't have just been like I wouldn't have thought like he's slow. That would not have been my thought process. But yeah, I don't know that I would have pegged him at the time he did.
No, that it was one of the faster 40-yard dashes in the history of the combine for a safety, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
it was the fastest for a safety at this combine, right?
yes.
And Parrish's 40 that was a top 10 time overall
Mhm.
at the combine this year. So yeah.
Yeah, so you look at the last 3 years, and K-State is kind of becoming NFL Combine University because a lot of really good RAS scores, a lot of eye-popping 40 times. You really can't go wrong. Yeah, I think that's a testament to Tremaine Carroll as well.
Yeah, but before we finish up, I'll put you on the spot here then. K-State now over the last couple of years loading up, sending more and more guys to the combine. Uh, who from this coming team do you think will be in Indianapolis next year or has the possibility of being there?
I will say Toby Osunsami. I think he's going to really explode, and I think that he could be a guy that ends up declaring early. And by the way, we've all seen it. NFL people probably haven't. He's really fast. He's almost as fast as Jacob Parrish. If he runs sub 4.4 as a defensive end, people will lose their minds.
Well, because you always have defensive ends needing to, they have so far to run. But yes, that'd be big. Well, anytime you're a guy that doesn't look like you should run what you run, that makes the rounds. That does you some favors. So, is that the only guy that you think as of now would have the option,
Uh,
or
I mean,
anybody that's new into the program, or
I think that there's still Gunnar Maldonado could. There's always the chance that Avery and Jace Brown both could be in Indianapolis next year because they have such a good season that they end up declaring. Dylan Edwards is an interesting one because I don't know what his NFL prospects is like because he's even like smaller than Deuce in terms of bulk.
yeah, that
Uh,
feels like one where he's really going to need K-State to up their special teams production for
yes.
him. Like they're going to have to get it figured out, and you're going to have to see the return game take a step forward for that to be a possibility. But yeah,
Neither of the corners, unless Jaden Rowe ends up being a starter. If Jaden Rowe ever gets invited to Indianapolis, he'll light it up as well. Linebackers, I don't think that there's a guy that will get drafted, will come out early because some of this is also just positional value. Like linebackers don't have a ton of value. Like I was almost going to say like Austin Romaine, but linebackers don't really get drafted high anymore in this current NFL.
yeah.
So I think that Toby, Avery, Jace, and then like Gunnar Maldonado are probably the guys to really watch out for.
Yeah, and even you think about it, like Jace, maybe that one that'll be an interesting one to follow this season because I think receivers should get into the territory too. Like if Jace Brown has another really good season, like he builds off of what he's done the first 2 years because he's gotten better each time. You kind of wonder like how much more can you do to improve where his standing would be with another year. I still tend to think that Avery Johnson will have 2 more years as the quarterback at K-State just based on how things have gone. But to what you're saying, like there is the possibility that when he explodes, and then it becomes time to test it. So it's going to be a fascinating year for K-State. We know from the on the field perspective, but then what it means for these guys long term and how that builds out will be interesting to watch as well. So
Yeah, losing guys early to the NFL is not a bad thing, and it's happening more and more at K State. 2 years in a row, I legitimately cannot remember the last time that K State had back to back years where guys declared, or I guess 3 years in a row now, where three guys all declared early. So
yeah. Yeah, you're on a run of it right now if you're K-State. So, and that's the good thing there. That's the evidence, is that they're able to really handle it because they keep backing it up with more guys that can go early and have decided to do that, as opposed to, if you think about, like, and I know that the year after 2022 wasn't what people wanted, or this year necessarily in terms of the final product, but like, a lot of times you would look at it and say, oh my gosh, you're losing Deuce Vaughn and Felix Anudike-Uzomah when they could come back. Like, that's a killer. Like, how are you going to recover from that? They were able to do pretty well there. They've been able to find guys and replenish it, and you keep finding other areas where you have guys that can step up, be ready to go. So K-State's doing a good job there. And like you said, it's really a credit to Tremaine Carroll and what he's doing to keep getting these guys developed out and turning them into not just good football players, but obviously the combine beasts that they are becoming.
I'll even throw this out there again as this is probably something that they will really harp on in this class especially. Look at where all three of those guys that are probably going to get drafted, look at where they were ranked out of high school. It wasn't very high. DJ Giddens didn't have a profile on any website until he committed and signed, and didn't even announce that he was committed or signed. Jacob Parrish didn't have an offer until that signing day of his class, and didn't sign until January or February.
Yeah.
Marquis Siegel went to North Dakota State first. Like, all three of those guys are again just really good recruiting stories, just like Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Ben Sinnott was a walk-on who declared early. When has that ever happened?
Yeah.
And then Cooper Beebe was also a really low-rated recruit. So they're just really pumping out the guys. And it's funny because it keeps happening that the lower-rated guys are the ones that keep declaring and leaving early, or being like the first guys to see the field. Because remember, the 2023 class was freaking loaded for K-State. Who was one of the ones that burnt their red shirt though? Austin Romaine, who was one of the last guys ranked in the class, and Chidi Obiizer played in 4 games. He was I think he was the 3rd lowest rated player in the class.
Yeah, no, it's what they're doing, and this goes to, obviously they can develop it, but their evaluations have been good, and now you hope that it translates to not just the guys you already had, but then the transfer process as well, and it can all come together, and you get better than an 8-win regular season this year. I know that's what everybody's looking for. So that will do it for us today. We'll be back again tomorrow night after K-State and Cincinnati play basketball. Drew may or may not be with us depending on the result. So the Cats got to go up there and do it for him. It's been so long since K-State beat Cincinnati to open Big 12 play that, Drew is probably thinking this day may never come, but here it is again. The legacy game, as he said, because Drew hates the Cincinnati fans and the way that the national media tried propping Cincinnati up during the offseason. Meanwhile, everybody just looked around here and said, what? They went like 7-11 in conference play last year. They're supposed to be good because they brought all the same guys back that were pretty average the year before. How's that make any sense?
And who would have guessed that 18 games into the Big 12 conference season, they'd be 7-11 again?
Wow, how about that? Well, Cat's going to try and make them 7-12 after tomorrow night. A win would be beneficial for K-State because I think in realistic scenarios, as long as K-State wins one game this week, they will avoid having to go and get bumped up into that top half of the bracket that we've talked about. And so they would be probably in that like 10-15 game. And again, I know some people are like, oh, it's stupid to talk about the Big 12 tournament like this. It's really all you have to do, though, at this stage of the game with K-State. And if you are trying to create a path where they could do something, it has to happen the easiest way possible. The easiest way possible is by securing the 10 or 11 seed. Because if you are the 12, if you are the 9 or like the 12-13, you're going to have a very difficult path. So we'll monitor that. We'll talk about the game tomorrow night with everybody. So hop back in then. and I'll have a mailbox for everybody fresh tomorrow morning. So for Drew Galloway, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching the KSO Show. Back again tomorrow with full coverage of the Cats and the Bearcats.